And this is the ABC company intranet that we've been doing a lot of our demos on over the last kind of 6 weeks or so. So we do already have some web parts in here. We was working on the events itinerary, if you like. We've been looking at the people pickers, organizational charts, and various other things as well in here. And again, this is very similar to this kind of training events or this events web part that we was looking at earlier, but we do have a little bit more control and a little bit more flexibility into where this kind of gets placed, how it's shown to our users as well. That's the difference really between events and news. Events is very much specific to your event. You can set dates and time, whereas news, you've got the kind of flexibility to add your own things in there as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come up to the edit button up here on the right hand side. And this takes us into our SharePoint edit page view. So we can see we've got our page layout options on the left, and we can add our web parts as we've been going over the last kind of 6 weeks by finding the gaps between our web parts here. Now, for today's example, I could make this look a lot nicer. We could build it into the hero section if we wanted to at the top. But I kind of want to get into the nuts and bolts of this demo as quickly as I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new web part by hovering over the gap. And if we go and look for news, we can see that we have two news web parts here. We have feed for Viva Connections, which is something I'll kind of just briefly go over a little bit later. And we also have news as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and select news.
Could you just zoom up a little bit, please, Connor? It's just on that resolution. There we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Just jumping around all over the place now.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is what the news web part looks like. Now it looks very kind of bog standard out of the box. There's nothing here because I don't have any news articles inside of this news site. But we'll look at creating those in just a second. But you can see that we've got some kind of templates here just to kind of show you what this kind of looks like. So we have a bunch of different options how we want to kind of display our news web part. We've got side by side, which is the default. We can also select top story, tiles, which gives us that kind of hero style look, if you like. But I'm just going to leave this on. I'm just going to go back to top story, and we'll leave this as is for now. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to quickly click the edit web part button. There's a bunch of options in here, and I'm not going to show you all these right now. We can come back to these a little bit later because some of these are a bit more useful in the context of the kind of departmental web part, news web part that I was talking about. But what I do want to look at is this piece up at the top here, and this is the news source. So we can surface news not only from this site, but we can also surface news from other sites as well. So that's just one thing to bear in mind, and that's where hopefully you're already starting to think to yourself, this is where I could use it for kind of maybe sharing news specifically to certain departments or bringing in news from specific departments here as well. But just for the kind of context of me showing you how the web part works and how news works, I'm just going to leave this on this site for now. And I'm just going to go ahead and click republish. So we've now got our web part on our screen. Again, very bog standard. There's nothing in here. How do we go about adding news items? So there's a number of places that you can do this. You can do this directly from the web part by pressing the add drop down here. And we've got the ability to add news posts and news links. I'll get into that in just a second. But let's say, for example, you're in a part of SharePoint or a page on SharePoint that doesn't have the news part, but you still want to be able to add news. You can also do it up here from the new drop down, and you'll also see news post and news link as well. So when we think about news posts and news links, the easiest way that I kind of think about it is that we can have internal news, news that's stored within the context of SharePoint, or we can have external news. Now you might have like a public facing blog post, maybe there's a interesting article from for us, it might be Microsoft, for example, that we want to kind of share with the team. We can surface that we can surface that as a blog post, as an article, as a news item as well, directly in SharePoint. So I'm going to go ahead and add, first of all, an external link, external news link, if you like, into this site. Now, just bear in mind, when you do add a new news link, the context of your actual link sits inside of SharePoint. So when we were just seeing about the news web part there, where we could see that we could surface news from different sites, just bear in mind that when we add news links, it's still in context of the site that you're adding the news link from. So I want to go ahead and press news link. Now, when I was looking through this demo earlier, I did have a bit of an issue with this. It didn't seem to surface everything, so I'm going to try again. I'm just going to go ahead and navigate to Power Platformer, which is our blog site, and I've just picked out one of our trending blogs at the moment, which is the How to Stop Your SharePoint List Being a Sea of Text. Interesting read if you want to go take a look at that. I'm going to copy and paste the URL that we've got here into the link text field inside of here. Now, hopefully this does do what I want it to, which it looks like it has.
It did it.
So yeah, I've just gone and grabbed the URL, and you'll notice that we've got preview images, we've got a title, and we've got a description in here. Now, this image, title, and description is coming from what we call the SEO of the page. Now, any well-built public-facing site will have some form of SEO related to it, and all SEO is the details about the page that search engines are able to read, such as, like I say, the title, the description. We also get like a kind of featured image, a preview image as well, in there as well. So yeah, search engine optimization. Don't think I mentioned that, but yeah, it's exactly what it is. So we're, again, SharePoint's making use of that information to be able to pull that straight in. So we don't have to do anything else with this information. We don't have to go and set images and titles and descriptions and all of that. We can just copy and paste the URL and let it do all the work for us. Now, you still do have the ability to edit the news link here if you want to. And what that'll do is give you the ability to edit the title, change the description, and the image if you want to. But I'm happy with the way that looks. We can see that my featured image has been come across from Power Platformers. Our text is fine. I could probably change this a little bit. I'd probably remove this last section, which told me that it was from Cloud 365. And I might format this in a certain way. But yeah, I'm just going to leave it as it is for now and press post. Now, while that takes a few seconds to post, what you'll notice is even though that I came here and added a news link, the news web part has picked that article up directly from this SharePoint site, because that's what it's set to pull from, and it's placed it directly inside of my my news web part. And we can see here that again we've got the text, the image, description. We can also see who it's created by as well. So again, this is very similar to the way kind of lists and document libraries work. If I create a new item, it registers me as the created by person against this as well. So we do have that. And again, we'll go into some filtering as well if we want to kind of filter based on who created it, maybe filtering on the title. We'll do that a little bit later. So if I go and click this link, again, it's already open, but you'll see if I click this, this opens up in a new tab, which is nice because it does mean that you can come straight back to your SharePoint experience without losing kind of where you were. You don't have to kind of go back through your browser after a dozen times. So that is kind of how external links work. But what options do we have in terms of internal links? So internal links are basically created through the news post here. Just making sure I've not missed anything in chat. I can see a lot of chat going on.
Yeah, you're all good, Connor. So just some really good thoughts around how some of the people on this call set up their news feeds with audience targeting and different examples. So you're all good. Awesome
stuff. Yeah, that audience targeting is something I want to play with quite a bit, because I mean I've seen that over the events calendars as well that we've seen. We can see it in news as well. There's a bunch of options for audience targeting, but I think you have to enable it in your SharePoint site.
Yeah. Sorry, just before you move on, there's a really interesting point, and I know we spoke about this a little bit earlier around the permissions aspect for what you're about to show and what you are showing. I think it was Steve Morley made the point that it is absolutely possible to configure this so your user base, your people who use this intranet can post news. It's about how you decide to roll this up, not how you are constrained. So there's a lot of flexibility in how this gets done. I just thought that's worth surfacing because we spoke about it, didn't we?
Yeah, I was gonna write down what you mentioned, but yeah, in terms of creating news articles, and all of that sort of thing. I believe it is you have to be a site owner, right? Or is it?
Well, no. So what we're just describing there is it is possible to grant permissions and roles to do these things. So me as a site member, I might be able to post news, but I might not be able to do some other things in the site. So you can configure permissions to enable people in general to create news items, and then you might stick something like an approval flow off the back of it. But I think the point that was being made is how flexible it can be. It's not just out of the box, you're fixed. It has to be site owners, if that makes sense.
Awesome stuff. So yeah, we've got our internal article. Let's have a look at we've got our external article. Let's have a look at internal articles. So we can do this through the form of news posts. Now, if I go ahead and select add a new news post, a new news, we can see that we get given a slightly different interface. Now, what's really great about what we're seeing on screen here is we have some templates, and I really like the look of what we have here. This is these made for email templates, and these are templates that can be sent not only as news articles inside of your SharePoint site, but these can also be sent via email as well, and they're kind of really nicely formatted for the context of an email, which is really nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let's just play into kind of what we've got coming up over the next kind of maybe 6 to 8 weeks after today. And that is perhaps I want to share some information about a new event that's coming up, and that might be the new Copilot series that we're doing for these weekly digests. So I'm going to use one of these templates here, and you can select any of the ones that are more suited to the sort of information that you want to kind of push out to your staff. But I'm going to select the event template here, and you can see that we can, on the right hand side, we have a preview of what that template looks like. Now, the great thing about these templates is obviously they are fully editable. We can customize, we can change things. So I'm going to go ahead and click create post. And you can see that this page looks very similar to the page design, the page layout that we had back on the home screen of our SharePoint site. We have the ability to add page sections or new sections here. We also have the ability to add web parts to these as well. Now, if we scroll down to the bottom as well, we can see that we have all of that, again, that preview stuff that we were seeing in here as well, including that call to action, because obviously this is an event. We want people to register. We want people to do something off the back of this. So I'm not going to go ahead and change all of the information inside of here because I simply don't have time for that, but I'll just give this article a title. I'm just going to call this the Copilot Weekly Digest. I'll just say coming soon, give it a quite catchy title. And just before I do post this, again, that kind of goes into, just want to kind of go into what makes a good article. So, I mean, again, just to make sure you're all on your toes as well, just pop into chat. What do you think makes a good article? How do you write your news items? How do you make them appealing and engaging to people? What should you consider? What things would you think about? Cocktails.
Always, Connor, always cocktails. Pictures, boom. Agreed. Upside down pyramid.
So pictures. Yeah, what might I include on this event, for example, if it wasn't already here? Yeah, visualization captures the eye. A lot of people are much more inclined to look at images than they are text. Catchy title. It's funny, that's literally what I've got in my notes here. Well, a short video, yeah. So again, if a short video is relevant to the article, then obviously keeping it simple, yes, that's obviously important. So yeah, we need to think about catchy titles. We need to think about eye-catching thumbnails, maybe body images. You can see that there's an image inside of this template already. We also need to think about clear headings. We've also got, again, out of the box here, we've got resources as a heading, we've got event details as a heading. We know exactly what those headings mean. We know exactly kind of where to scan our eyes when we're looking for certain pieces of information. We might also want to consider call to actions as well. And again, for an event, this makes perfect sense. We might want to direct the users to go to a certain place, click here to go to type of thing. We might want them to kind of create a task off the back of of an article or announcement. We might want them to RSVP for an event. We might want them to write an email. There's a number of things that you can do with call to actions, which is pretty cool. So yeah, we can again just go in and start changing stuff. We can change things like the images. I'm not going to bother with this, but again, you just select on the web part that you want to change, and you get given a bunch of edit controls as well that you can manipulate and change here. But I'm just going to leave it as for now. We're going to leave this event alone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the top here and just click post and send. Now the reason we've got post and send is because we can send this because it's an email template via email. So I'm going to go ahead and click post and send. And you can see that the news has been posted, so that already now exists inside of our SharePoint site. But we can now send this to a group of people, individuals, whoever we want this event to kind of be sent to. And again, we've got this nice kind of formatted view here inside of our email body as well. So I'm just going to go send this to John and press send. You can see that email has been sent. But if we come back to our homepage, we can also see this inside of our news web part here as well, which is pretty cool. So what other things can we do inside of SharePoint News? So the other thing, I know that somebody mentioned about the email templates are cool, but they lack some of the web parts. So the next kind of thing that you might be thinking of is, well, how do I actually create a kind of news template, if you like? Now, there's some benefits to actually creating your own news template, and that is the fact that you can keep things on brand. You can kind of keep the continuity of and the consistency of your articles. So it might be worth creating your own. Now, the way we can do this is if we come up to the new drop down again, and we'll just do news post again because we want that kind of internal kind of style. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and click blank. You can use any of the templates to do this. I'm going to go ahead and just click blank for now and click create post. Now, let's say, for example, I want to create a template, and this is a template that maybe I'm sharing YouTube videos or training content regularly as news articles, and I can never be asked to kind of keep going back in here and set in the right web parts, bringing in the videos and all of that thing. I just want a template that I could use. Well, I can just kind of call this the YouTube template, and I can just go ahead and start adding some web parts. Now I know that there is a YouTube web part in here. You can also do video web parts. I'm not going to bother about filling this out because it's just a template for now. I might say that inside of the description, I might just say video description here, for example. So anybody who uses this knows exactly where to look. And let's say, for example, I might also have a call to action or something at the bottom as well. So let's go add a new call to action web part. And let's say I want this to just be my template for now. And maybe I'll have a banner which I'll use for certain YouTube videos. For example, I can add that in here as well. And that'll be carried across when I save this as a template. So in fact, let's just go and do that. Oh, let's not do that one. Let's go add an image at the top as well. That'll do for now. So there we go. There's my template. Now, to save this as a template, it's a little bit hard to see. It's actually under this little drop down arrow in the top left here. I'll just zoom in so you can see that. Next to save as draft, you've got this little drop down and you've got save as template. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. You see this page, this is a page template saved on your site, which is a little bit weird. The fact that it says that, but I'm just going to click save page template. So that's going to be to add a title. Again, I'm just going to call this YouTube article and press save page template. And that's gone and saved. So how do we access this now? Well, these page templates are saved on your site. So next time I come to create a new news post in the site where that template exists, I can come to the saved on this site section up here. And we can see that we've got YouTube article here. So I can select that and click create post. And again, we've got all of that, all of those web parts and then pieces that we've added there, including the background in here just to start quickly creating articles. So it's a nice quick way of being able to create consistent looking articles without building it up from scratch every time, because it might be that you've got things like columns in here and multiple page sections. Your articles might be quite large, quite kind of I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for is, but quite kind of full of content. So yeah, it does save a lot of time. But I'm just going to kind of jump back out of that for now. And we're going to look at departmentalizing some news. I'm just going to take a look at some of the questions if we've got any.
Yeah, I was just tracing the chat there, Connor. It's really interesting what you shared there around sort of the template creation, and it got me on a thread there, which Valerie's sort of spoken to around how you might not have the emails going out through that pathway, but maybe have a Power Automate flow, which then picks up just a news item and does something with it, maybe to Teams and email. So some really interesting feedback around that.
Yeah, that kind of falls into what we've been talking about over the last kind of 6 weeks, and we've always kind of got to the end of our kind of main demo, if you like, and gone, well, there's always custom options. We can create custom lists as well, and that's again something you might decide to kind of go with if it suits you in that kind of format. But like I say, all of this new stuff as well is kind of accessible via Power Automate, which means we can do automations, we can send emails, we can send alerts when a new article is created. There's a number of things that we can do. For example, we can call Power Automate flows from our call to actions inside of our news articles, which again, I'm not going to go into today, but it's all possible via the kind of Power Automate integration that we have. And that is something that if you've not looked at Power Automate, it should definitely be something that you learn, because there's so much flexibility and control that you have by using Power Automate, and also it is a time saver. When things are happening automatically, you do save a lot of time. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the last section then, and that is kind of, well, let's say for example, I have an article that exists on another site. So I'm going to go to my ABC team site. So we were just on the company intranet here. I'm just going to go to my ABC team site. Now I've already kind of preset this up a little bit. I've already created an article inside of here. You can see that my news and announcements Webpart is up here on the top right. And I have an article here called, well, I say an article, it's an external link that goes to Power Up Step Up Challenge. I've added a bit of information about our Power Up Step Up Challenge. And that is, again, it's in context of the ABC team site that it was created in, which means that out of the box, I'm not going to be able to surface this on my communication site that I've got. So the way that we do this is, if I do want to bring in this this article from this other site, is I can come back to my ABC company intranet, and we can start looking at some of the features and controls and properties that are available inside of this news web part. So I'm going to come back to the edit screen, and I'm going to select my news web part, and I'm going to press the edit web part pencil icon there. And this appears now on the right hand side. So we kind of went over this very briefly, but we have a bunch of options here. First of all, again, we could change things like the style, just as we could from the drop down. We can also show things like the number of views, and that is based on the amount of page visits that the article gets, not what I originally thought, which is the amount of clicks it gets from the web part. It is the actual amount of views that it has from the page itself. We can do things like showing the author as well, very useful, especially if there is an individual person news that you want to follow, makes it a lot easier to kind of visualize and see them. We can also do filtering as well. And again, this kind of goes back to what I just mentioned. If we want to see somebody's news specifically, we can do that in here as well. So we've got a bunch of filtering options. For example, we can say that we only want to filter based on who this might be created by. Now, again, there's no people picker here, which is a little bit of an odd experience. Because I know in SharePoint, usually we have people in groups, pickers that we can kind of use. So it'd be nice to kind of see that eventually come in here. But you do have to kind of type the person's username in exactly. For example, if I move an E from my name, you can see it doesn't know where to find the news. So it is kind of making sure that you're typing in the person's username correctly inside of that box. But we have other things as well. We can say whether the title includes the words. So for example, let's say I only want to surface Copilot articles inside of this Webpart. I know obviously that I've got one here related to Copilot. I could also type in Copilot in here as well, and you can see now that it just singles it down to just one article in here. So I'm going to remove my filters, and just a quick heads up as well, you can add multiple filters. And these are and filters. So you can say, for example, I want to show articles from Connor. I might also want to show articles from John, and you'd add a separate filter to do that. We've got audience targeting as well, which is something Sydney mentioned earlier. We're not going to talk about that today. But we also have the ability to organize our news as well. Now, I might want to, for example, make sure that this article on SharePoint, on helping stopping SharePoint being a sea of text, I might want to make sure that that's always at the beginning. So what I can do is select news to organize, and you can either drag or drop these into the order you want, or you can use the Control and your right arrow key to bring that in, and you can use the Control right up and down to kind of reorganize those as well. So I'm happy with that now. You can see that's organized correctly. But let's just go back to me bringing in the news from the other site. So this goes back to this top section here. So what is our news source? Now the way I would do this is, for example, I can select on select sites, and this will surface all of the sites that I have access to or that exist as a SharePoint site owner inside of my site collections. So, for example, I know that I want to surface some news from our ABC team site. I might select that specifically. And I might also want to make sure I've got my my ABC company intranet in there as well. Now, it might just be that you only want to surface information from one site specifically. And then again, this kind of goes back to that kind of departmental news that you might want to kind of push towards your team. You might want to select specific sites that news might exist on, specific categories that you might put in the title, specific users that publish that those articles as well. So you can see now I've added those two. We can see now that we have that article also appearing here. Again, it doesn't have an image, which is fine, but we can still see it under our ABC team site. But now this is available to view from this news Webpart. So I'm going to go ahead and click republish, and we're going to go ahead and click on that link. And what you see is that takes me just as it was designed to a much younger version. I look very hot in that photo. I look very sweaty. Maybe it's the summer when I when I recorded that. But yeah, it takes us straight into the kind of step up challenge, which is what I wanted that to do. So yeah, that is kind of in a nutshell of kind of how news works inside of SharePoint. Now there are further places you can explore. Probably don't have time to kind of go into it today, but you can explore things like hub site news as well, which is another place where you can start to create news. One thing I did want to mention as well, which I completely forgot about, is over at the SharePoint start page, what you'll also see is news from these sites. Now, all of your sites or your frequent sites will appear here. You can click see all and it'll show you all of them. But all of your news from all of your sites can be aggregated here as well, which again is a nice place to kind of take a look at news. You don't have to specifically go to certain sites to be able to do that. But yeah, just to kind of finish off my my part of the demo here is some of you, again, I'm guessing a lot of you work inside of Microsoft Teams more so than SharePoint nowadays. Teams is obviously becoming that kind of collaboration hub, if you like, for everything we do in our business. And you might be wondering, it's a bit of a pain to kind of go from SharePoint to Teams, then back to SharePoint, then back to Teams again every time you want to look at a news article. So you heard, I think Valerie mentioned about creating Power Automate flows. You can bring your articles in that way to Teams. But what I do want to kind of just highlight, and again, I'm not going to show you today because there's already a fantastic session on it, is that we also have a tool that exists called Viva Connections. Just get a raise of hands in chat if you've heard of Viva Connections. Or if you've used Viva Connections, pop a yes in chat. So yeah, Viva Connections, what you're able to do with Viva Connections, from what Kelly showed us, again, I'd love to try this out for myself, but I've not got around to it yet, is you're able to surface news from sites inside of SharePoint, and you're able to surface those inside of your Viva Connections hub, if you like, inside of Teams, which is really cool. So yeah, if you are interested in learning how that all kind of works, how Viva Connections works, again, this kind of plays back into what we mentioned at the beginning. Get hold of an all access pass for Intranet Insights, because not only are you going to get that fantastic session, you'll get a bunch of other sessions as well. Or get Platinum membership, and you can kind of try it out for a few days as well. We've got a 7-day free trial on Platinum memberships as well, so you can go and watch that session under your Platinum membership as well. But yeah, go take a look at that session as well, because it's really insightful. Kind of, excuse the pun there for Intranet Insights, but it is really kind of insightful into kind of bringing people, or bringing you, sorry, into your kind of Teams environment, which does look incredible.